entirely separate, now unified in some inexplicable way.
Faraday, come look at this. You're the bright spark around here. Perhaps you can work it out. Ersted's reported an amazing finding. We're just replicating it here.
Let's try the compass on the other side.
Now, that is remarkable.
But if the electrical force is flowing through the wire, why does the needle not move in the same direction, parallel to the wire?
Quite.
Let's try turning the whole apparatus round.
Again, Newman.
So, the electrical force goes this way, the compass points that way. How can one affect the other?
Perhaps the electricity is throwing out some invisible force as it moves along.
What?
Perhaps some sort of electrical force is emanating outwards from the wire.
Oh, my dear boy, let me tell you that at the University of Cambridge, electricity flows through a wire, not sideways to it.
Well, that may be what they teach at Cambridge, but it doesn't explain what's happening before our eyes.
No, let's just get on. Let's swap the compass to below the wire.
Why the compass was deflected at right angles, why the electricity was affecting the compass at all, dumbfounded Davy and many others.
As we celebrate the marriage of Michael and Sarah.
For Faraday, however, the problem became an obsession. It was a fascination inspired by his religion. For him, the problem was a way to understand God's hidden mysteries.
A love for our fellow man.
There was a small, almost persecuted group in London called the Sandemanians. They were religious, not really a sect. They were just a small subset, sort of like Quakers. Faraday was a member of that group. It was a very gentle, decent group. They believed that underneath the whole surface of reality, everything was created by God in a unified way, that if you opened up one little part of it, you could see how everything was connected.
Michael Faraday was someone who, like Einstein, thought in terms of pictures.
Faraday was different from anybody else. He had a flair for understanding his experiments, for understanding what was really going on inside them.
By methodically placing a compass all around an electrified wire, Faraday started to notice a pattern.
What everyone else at the time had been taught was that forces travel in straight lines. Faraday was different. Faraday imagined that invisible lines of force flowed around an electric wire. And then he imagined that a magnet had similar lines emerging from it, and that those lines would get caught up in this flow. It was a bit like a flag in the wind.
But Faraday's great leap of imagination was to turn this experiment on its head. Instead of an electrified wire moving a compass needle, he wondered if he could get a static magnet to move a wire.
I've never seen you like this, Faraday. You look like a happy child. I'm shaking, Newman. Underneath, I'm shaking. You see, John? You see? Yes.
This is the experiment of the century. It's the invention of the electric motor. Scale up the magnets and the wires, make them really big. Attach heavy weights to them, and they'll be dragged along. But almost more importantly, he's inventing a new kind of physics here.
Although he didn't realize it at the time, Faraday had also just demonstrated an overarching principle. The chemicals in the battery had been transformed into electricity in the wire, which had combined with the magnet to produce motion. Behind all these various forces, there was a common energy.
A couple of months earlier, Davy had been elected president of the Royal Society, which was the elite body of English science. But then he saw this great discovery published in the Quarterly Journal of Science. I don't know if he was envious, but he certainly saw that this young man who had been his assistant, this mere blacksmith's son, had come up with one of the greatest discoveries of the Victorian era.
Davy accuses Faraday of plagiarizing similar work from another eminent British scientist, William Wollaston.
So, Faraday, what does Wollaston make of all this?
He's written to me and assures me that he's taken no offense. And he acknowledges that what I published was entirely my own work.
Quite. Davy is just being an ass.
But will Davy now retract his allegation?
Sadly, no. In fact, he's still vehemently opposed to you being elected a member of the Society.
Really? And what do you think?
Faraday, my dear boy, you have my vote.
And mine. And I believe you even have Wollaston's.
Oh. What a mess.
Well, no matter. No matter. It's the science that counts. So tell me, how does this wire of yours spin round its magnet? What mysterious forces are at play?
There seems to be an electromagnetic interaction. In my mind, I see a swirling array of lines of force spinning out of the electrified wire, like a spiraling web.
But invisible lines of force, it's all a bit vague, isn't it?
Faraday, might I have a word in private?
Certainly.
Listen, Faraday, let's stop this nonsense. I want you to take down your ballot paper from the notice board.
Sir Humphrey, I see no reason to take it down. My friends have proposed me. It is they who put the paper up. I will not take it down. Good day.
Faraday was elected to the Royal Society. Davy died 5 years later, a victim of his many gaseous inhalations. In time, Faraday's world of invisible forces would lead to a whole new understanding of energy. He'd started what Einstein would call the Great Revolution. It was in the very heart of this exciting new world of energy that Einstein grew up.
My father and uncle wanted to make their fortune by bringing electric light to the streets of Germany. From an early age, I loved to look at machines, understand how things work.
He's going to kill himself. Albert, stay there.
What are you doing?
I experienced a miracle when my father showed me a compass. I trembled and grew cold. There had to be something behind objects that lay deeply hidden. At high school, they had their ideas about what I should learn. I had my own.
Einstein.
I was merely interested in physics, maths, philosophy, and playing the violin. Everything else was a bore.
Einstein! On your feet! As you obviously know everything about geology, tell me, how does a rock start run here?
It's pretty much the same to me, whichever way they run, Herr Professor.
Einstein's teachers tried to drum into him, as Faraday had shown, that energy could be converted from one form into another. They also believed that all forms of energy had already been discovered. Einstein was going to prove them wrong. He would discover a new, vast reservoir of energy hidden where no other scientist had ever thought of looking. Deep in the heart of matter. 100 years before Einstein's birth, King Louis XV was on the throne of France. But the ancient absolute power of the monarchy over the people was starting to be challenged.
Jacques, leave the windows. Forget the rain. We need air.
The French Revolution was just around the corner.
This was the era of enlightenment, when intellectuals believed very firmly that the way forward lay in science. And they felt that one of the first tasks that lay ahead of them was to rationalize and to classify every single kind of matter so they could see how it all interacted together.
Antoine Lavoisier, a wealthy, aristocratic young man, decided to take up this task, to see if there was some basic connection between all the stuff of everyday life, all the different substances in the world. But what worked for Lavoisier as a scientist, his meticulous, even obsessive attention to detail, was also to be his downfall.
Monsieur Lavoisier, you are, if my eyes do not deceive me, consuming only milk this evening. First you had a glass of milk, now you are eating a bowl of milk. Will you next move on to a plate of milk?
Your precise observations commend you as a lady of scientific curiosity, mademoiselle. Most unusual. As you seek knowledge, so I shall dispense it. For the last 5 weeks, I have taken nothing but milk.
Good God, man. I would rather die than fast on milk for 5 weeks. Are you in the grip of some horrendous ailment?
On the contrary, I am investigating the effects of diet on health.
Monsieur, with the greatest of respect to a member of the Royal Academy of Sciences, your gut must think your throat has been slit.
Whereas your gut, Count, is no doubt petitioning the Academy for a widening of your throat.
Marianne, how dare you insult the Count? Don't forget what the Count offers. Not just marriage, but think of how you will be introduced to all the salon. You will be the toast of Paris.
Would it not be a shame, madame, to burden you with the duties of matrimony before you have had a chance to experience your curiosity for nature?
Shall we all go through? It's getting rather hot in here.
Do you really plan to marry the Amaval?
There is a plan, but it is not mine.
Then I must contrive to save you.